Brady throws, and that's caught at the 1, and into the end zone goes Tim Wright for the touchdown.
Don't let Tom Brady have a second tight end that can play. Tim Wright had 50 catches for Tampa Bay last year. And everybody said, Tim who? When that trade was made and Logan Mankins was gone and the offensive line was falling apart. And you knew it was just a matter of time until you started seeing the impact the second receiving tight end would have. And we are finally seeing it here tonight.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I've got already my favorite show. I've got to know this gentleman for 8, 10, 12 weeks, but we've talked every week, and I'm working with him on this incredible project that's really, when you talk about serving, this is what it's all about. When we're going to talk about serving the deaf community as well as the hearing-abled community. And you know the great thing about Tim? He won the Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2014. Now, I'm a Niner fan. I don't think he beat us, so he's okay. I still like him. But he's taken this great accomplishment, which to me, and I'm sure listeners out there think the same thing, but he's going to do great with it. And not just good, but he's going to do great. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, it's such an honor to be here, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet. This is going to be great. I want to jump right in. Dome Audio is a disruptive tech in the I can't think of the name. Headphone space. Thank you. See, that's why I love Tim.
Yes.
It's really disruptive. Some people call this a unicorn in business. Let's talk more how you're disrupting the industry.
Thank you, Steve. And let's take it back from the origin story. My partner was in the music industry for 25 years. As a songwriter, producer, musician. His name is Ben White. Played with some of the greats and really developed this ear for sound. And he then, after his music career, went back to school for neurofeedback and biofeedback and really started to understand how the brain fired, how it functioned. And that's what really started to pique his interest, which was another passion of his. But he got his hands on a pair of conventional bone conduction headphones that look just like this. And when he tried it on, he said, I understand the concept of sound and what it's trying to produce. But because of his background and going to school, he then slid it behind his ears. And that's where the light bulb went off. And he said, from a traditional sense, this option is used for people when they want to hear the world around them while still hearing their audio, phone calls, music, podcasts. But it doesn't provide the type of fidelity that most people are used to when they want to hear the banging music and that very full fidelity sound. So what he did was when he slid it behind the ears, he said, if I added 2 more speakers to this design, it's going to double the fidelity. But then he said, there's times where you don't always want to hear the world around you. And so with all of that exploration, what he discovered and then what he now created is the world's first open and closed ear bone conduction headphone. So now you have a full fidelity experience with nothing in your ears, hearing the world around you, having conversations, phone calls, seamless dialogue. And then when you do want to block out the outside world, this dome cover, which we call headphone real estate, is what you actually attach to the frame of the headphone, and now it goes into a privacy mode. But one of the other elements that makes it very visible, very disruptive is this silhouette and the design of this headphone is actually what complements the human anatomy. So as you look around the ear where this headphone is, these 2 bones, the jawbone and the mastoid bone, is in the front and back of the inner ear, which is how humans actually hear with their cochlea. So sound travels through the air and goes directly into your inner ear, and then that's what sends the signal to the brain. So our technology goes directly into the inner ear. But with the face of this cover, we call it headphone real estate because it's a blank canvas and it gives us the ability to do things like this. This is a concept look of how we're able to do licensing deals and collaborations with some of the biggest brands around the world. We're talking any material, any pattern, any fabric that the company or the brand uses as their key mark design. We can actually put that on our dome cover. So with all of that said, and bringing it to exactly the point you made earlier, Steve, is that this headphone technology will not only transform and redefine the experience for people who can hear normally, but there's an entire community of 500 million people who are deaf and hard of hearing, who has been overlooked by the conventional headphone experience until now. So with this very headphone, we're bringing both of the communities together, and that's what we call one headphone, one sound.
So you're telling me the deaf community, which I mentioned in the intro, they can put this headset on, and with you building an app on the phone or wherever, I can talk into my phone and that deaf person can legibly hear me talk to them.
Absolutely. So this is a non-invasive, non-permanent way that the deaf community and the hard of hearing community can be a part of the headphone conversation and enjoy music by not only hearing it, but feeling it as well. And currently, again, because conventional air conduction headphones are so limited in terms of what it can do for someone who's deaf and hard of hearing, we essentially has unlocked a new way for the deaf and hard of hearing community to enjoy music through headphone. And that's because it uses vibration to go directly into the inner ear, where most of the challenges actually reside in the outer and middle ear. So that's what, from a utility standpoint, as well as an emotional connection, that's why this community has grabbed hold to the brand and the IP of Dome the way they have.
I love that. And listen, I'll tell you a quick story. My chiropractor was telling me, I was telling him about Dome, and he was super excited. He actually went to a dance for deaf people, and they literally took the speakers and pointed them to the floor. And he walked in. It was weird for a hearing able person, but what they do is they can feel the floor move with the deed. But now you add that to be able to hear Elton John sing Rocket Man.
That's right.
Elton, I want a sponsorship, by the way. Just kidding. But so they can hear him sing Rocket Man and feel the basses and trebles and all that.
Yes, that's exactly the concept. So it's taken how, we've heard stories firsthand that people within the deaf and hard of hearing community will put their hand on a speaker just so the vibration and sound travels through their hand into their body. And that's their closest perception to audio and music. So the concept you just identified is taking how the floor vibrates and how they connect with it, and now putting it on their head and going directly into the inner ear, which is a combination that most things out there right now cannot produce in terms of even hearing aids, cochlear implants. So we're bringing it all together with also a visible element that ties in the community to where you're not walking in a room and immediately stereotype or classified as, okay, he has a hearing aid or he has a cochlear implant, and you can now know that they're deaf or hard of hearing. But this brings everyone together in a very neutral way, is universal, and it's truly a platform that can open up a lot more different avenues, such as ASL. So now hearing people can learn, which is a language. Deaf and hard of hearing people use ASL as their first language of communication. So now that platform for everyone to start understanding each other even more is one incredible. When you talk about serving and you talk about impact in the world, that's how we're able to do that.
Yeah, you and your partner, Ben, who you mentioned, this is why I wanted you on the show, because that's a true servant heart. Building a business that's becoming philanthropic in a sense of changing a whole culture of people.
Yes.
And changing their lives, but you're also changing the hearing abled lives too, right?
Yes, we are. And that's where our app that we're developing, which is a proprietary app, and because our headphone is open ear, we are now able to manifest experiences and features that close ear headphones or earbuds or anything that goes inside the ear, you're inherently disconnected from the world around you. So with that said, you go into a venue with an open ear headphone, now you can have where one headphone connects to hundreds, and that person, like, let's say you go to a museum or you're in a tourist area or you're getting a guided tour, that person can speak through their headphone because we have dual mics on the front, and you could select the language you want translated in real time while still being able to converse with the people you're with. You can go to a live sporting event, watch the game live while getting live commentary through the headphone and hearing the things that the reason why people like watching games on TV is because you get that commentary and that insider information that you don't get when you go to a game. So now you get the best of both worlds. Things such as speech development, because you can hear voice more clear or in ways you couldn't before with other technology. Now you can work on speech development, meditation, wellness, all of these elements. When you think about group settings, or you think about, hundreds of people in one space or thousands of people at a game, we call Dome, the official headphone, a fan experience. So the immersion, the fidelity, the open ear concept, and what it's been able to enable for Dome, that's how we're going to be able to redefine the way people experience sound.
Now, with that, the cover,
Yes.
Is there noise cancellation involved with that?
Yes. So this design, we actually have multiple headphone designs that will roll out over time. But this dome cover here is going to be a noise isolation dome cover. So it effectively blocks out the outside sound, and it also amplifies the music that you're listening to because there's acoustic lining on the inside. So it's going to sound and feel like you're at a studio. And like I said, one of the jaw-dropping components of when we press play to a song, whether you're hearing or deaf and hard of hearing, it's the feeling of the music that you don't normally get. And you really haven't experienced it in this way when you talk about the two contact points on both sides of your head being now stimulated. So with all of that said, that's what's really driving that, that wow, surreal factor with our experience.
Better sound, noise canceled, I can be private. So you're taking the best of all worlds and putting them in one headset.
There it is. The most versatile, innovative headphone on the market. That's what we're doing.
This is crazy. So good. You can see why I'm working with Tim.
Thank you.
It's so, I just keep thinking serving. People will go, hey, it's a company, you make it. Of course we're making money, but we're changing lives, and people look for stuff like this their whole life to be able to do this. So it comes to my head, you're a Super Bowl champion, Tom Brady, Belichick, people know you've worked with them. That is right there. Okay, guys, legit. He didn't buy that off eBay. That is legit.
Right. Oh, yeah, I got the number on the side, Steve.
There it is. There's his name.
There it is. Boom. We got both of them. We got Right 81.
That's first of me seeing that. I trust him, even though I know he's right. So that's crazy. So you went from why football, why tech, and why now?
So why football? I think football is one of the closest relevant sports that connects with life, because you get knocked down, you got to get back up, the preparation, the conditions, working with a team, having leaders that are out front, or knowing how to follow. That's the makeup of a corporation. And that's what, in terms of my evolution throughout the sport, that's what I was able to do and achieve, and being a leader from literally Pop Warner all the way through to the NFL. And I just think that, what you learn from winning and then what you learn from losing is just like in business. Sometimes you have great quarters, sometimes you have quarters that stall, sometimes you have quarters that are in the black or the red. And so with that said is, how do you overcome? How do you adjust or pivot? And that's what sport has been able to teach me and how I'm applying it to business. Now, why tech? I love tech. Tech is, I think, in this century, in this day and age, it's one of the anchor points of how everything actually functions and moves. And, fortunately for my partner, being able to create something that is so commonly used in terms of headphone and communication and audio, but it's also one that we created a disruptive layer that now is unleashing new experiences and new features and new communities that can use it, that has been overlooked. And so with that said, again, my background and being on some of the biggest stages in the world, and now being able to infuse that spirit and drive a company along with my partner and our team, yourself, Steve, to a place where it can reach lives and really impact globally. And of course, serve. That's that common denominator is serving. That's where our heart and spirit is, and that's what we want to accomplish in the world. And now is the time to do it. So when you talk about why now, I mean, you look at some of the biggest companies in the world that they've taken the essential pillars or the fundamentals of what has driven, legacy brands that's been around for hundreds of years, like automakers or early technology companies and fashion companies and just like medical companies. All of these different constructs and industries, they all use the same principles. But when you can adopt some new age avenues on how to, market yourself, how to reach the community, how to message yourself or brand yourself while having something that is disruptive, that is proprietary, you put all of that stuff together, and then you look at the climate of people always wanting something new. That's how we're positioned in Dome Audio, and that's why the time is now.
That's so well said. And that's why I work with you. When I first met you, it's all about serving.
Yes.
You've never talked, much about money, and we'll talk about, end result and what's going to happen. Then it's your business, and we all have to do it. It's not nonprofit, but it's
Right.
important that people understand that doing something so unicornish, that's a weird word, but
Yep.
just so
I like that word.
disruptive and
Yes.
unicornish, I'm going to use it again. I got to ask you, Tim, and for the audience to hear, how do you feel when you wake up every morning?
Man, I sprint to the phone, sprint to the computer, and I sprint out to wherever I got to go in the world to meet with somebody, engage with people, really humanizing the brand. And it's the time that my partner and I spent building this company from scratch. And that's what's exuded in how people actually receive the spirit and the time and effort and energy that's been, masterfully crafted and put into this business. So, like you said, Steve, our focus between my partner and I was to drive impact. That was the platform we stood on. We said, for this company, it's about impact, because when you drive impact, volume always follows. And a lot of companies focus on volume. They would say, let's take a conventional headphone and let's just slap a brand on the side of it and let's go try to sell as many units as possible. But then that's where, when you're not original or you don't have some great differentiators, you stall out or you hit those roadblocks and you don't know how to continue to perpetuate. How does this make sense for a crowded market? But for a market that you can then, again, just turn the dial just slightly, be original in your own way, and then spend the time and measure twice, cut once, and then bring it into the world. That's where you see disruption. That's when you see innovation. That's where Apple comes into play. That's where, several brands we can list off, but that's what Dome is about. So we're looking to do this to create an opportunity for, of course, anybody that has invested in Dome, and we're actually raising capital as well. So anyone interested that's listening in, hit up Steve, hit myself, come join this mission. But overall, we are positioning Dome to be acquired by a larger entity that can then put their resources of serving and impact behind what Dome has already laid the foundation for. And then that's where we can reach hundreds of millions around the world. And it'll be a legacy that will leave on for the rest of, 50 years to 100 years. That's what it's about.
I love you use legacy and servant. I don't know. I've not been in a lot of boardrooms and businesses that look to sell, look for that, exit.
Yes.
But what you said was so important. Listen, I want you to understand this. He's not just taking anybody. If Amazon came and gave him $100 million, $500 million, whatever, he's going to vet them to make sure they're going to continue this and help the deaf community and help people hear better, enjoy better, gamify better, and all that. Yeah. That's what makes him a servant's heart, because we know you get to the multi-million and billion levels, that servant thing kind of falters in a lot of cases.
Yes, that's
true.
Stop
serving, right?
That's right. And I think, Steve, when it a lot of times It's when companies don't have that clearly defined at the onset. And when you're in it just to chase money, you kind of get blinded at the human side, and you forget to serve, you forget to really understand why this product actually transforms people's lives. Like, what are the ingredients that's making the reaction of the consumption of the market become so exponentially high, or the scale can be so big that you forget why you started in the first place. And for our company, for our team, for our mission, we are positioning Dome to impact the way the world experiences sound. And with that in mind, to all the different demographics that you touched, Steve, not only the deaf and hard of hearing, but the autistic community, the deaf blind community, the military community, where explosions and gunshots, that immediately impacts the people's hearing, the veterans that serve, they're immediately impacted by those sounds. And so when they actually, finish serving and they go back into their worlds and their communities, they don't have the type of devices that can restore their quality of life or enhance it. And so we have, fortunately, the technology that can do that. So that's what man.
Yeah, it's I'm almost speechless. That's rare for me. People would say, "Is Steve speechless?" I've got an interesting question. I think every company can be a disruptor. This is huge. It's a unicorn. There's not many, but every company is a disruptor by solving problems. What's a piece of advice? You've been doing this 5 years. Ben's been working on this 7 years. This is not yesterday's thing. This is years in the making. Yes. What piece of advice can you give a startup or a person who wants to start a business, or a business owner listening now, one, to find that disruptive product service and how to do that?
Great question, Steve. I think the Constitution that my partner and I, and don't get me wrong, like you said, this is not an overnight product and success and company that was built, and neither are my experiences and nor my partners. So this is a lifelong journey, and where we've reached in our life, all the experiences, to be able to now infuse it into what we do with Dome. So with that said, I've learned that patience and letting the dust settle for whatever situation, whether it's super positive or it's the most negative thing that you didn't think you would ever witness or experience in your life, let the dust settle, take a breath, and then analyze all the data or everything that actually is involved in whatever took place, in whatever event took place. And then you rely on what are the principles of the company? What's our core values? Who are the leaders that had the best experience, or their background suit this best to be able to bring it to their attention, and then have some consulting that goes on with that. I think as a lifelong learner, that's where you never have the answers. And when you have the mindset that I never arrived, you won't realize how far you can go, because yes, you have mentors, you have mentees, but believe me, mentors are always reading books from the authors that wrote that book, that they can get wisdom from, that they then could pass it down to the mentees that's looking for that advice. So the mind, the brain is a muscle that can never, it's infinite in terms of what it can actually soak in, and then how you can integrate that or distribute that information. So I always look at it, Steve, as, whatever situation arises, just take a breath. You have an opportunity and a moment to take a breath. You assess it. You then learn and then look at what elements, how can we pivot? How can we adapt? How can we adjust? And then that's when, you come out on the other side and you have something to stand on.
That's a great piece of advice. And I can tell you've lived that. That's why you said that. I know you live personal development every day, or getting better, growing.
Yes.
So people are listening going, okay, I'm fired up. I might have a friend that's deaf, or, I'm deaf, or they could be watching this with subtitles, but, somebody's always tied to the hearing community somehow. What is my the timeline for Dome V, I feel so excited. The timeline for video in the next year, what's it look like?
Yeah, the timeline. So the rollout is going to be very, very exciting. And we have remained behind the veil for a long time, literally since the inception. We went out into the field and at the grassroots level just to do some testing, to essentially mature and solidify the proof of concept as well as the proof of demand. And that's how we've been able to stick our flag within the deaf and hard of hearing community. But with that said, over the next 2 quarters, we're going to start rolling out some marketing. You're going to see us on the Good Morning shows. You're going to see us, being headlined and featured and talked about by different platforms. And we're then going to activate a campaign and really set it up for people to really start engaging with the brand, doing some pop-up listening experiences around the globe. That's the main way that people will really be able to connect with the brand, because we're not going big box stores. We want to deliver this either to you directly from the standpoint of inviting you to our experiences, or it's going to be shipped direct to consumer right at your doorstep, of course, from our ecosystem. So with that said, it creates essentially a very strong and healthy business side of it for Dome, but it also makes it very personable and human in terms of how we engage with our community. So I would say sometime 2024, Steve, we're going to be rolling this thing out. So all the listeners, just be ready to go. Be ready
Let's
to go.
do it. Yeah, reach out to me or Tim. I'm going to put videos that you've done in Gallaudet. Say that university. I can never say it.
Yes, Gallaudet University.
Gallaudet University, that are incredible. I'll put these in the show notes. If you're interested, watch them. It's why I started working with them, because I watched those. Go, okay, I'm in. What do we gotta do? Let's go.
Yes,
because it's serving people and it's serving a community that has not been served in a while. I'm going to reiterate what you said. That community, like you said, when they wear a cochlear or an implant, it's like they're labeled already, which is unfortunate. Fortunate in this world, people do it, but they do.
Yes.
Now we can take that away and give them some peace. I love the neutrality, that we're all the same. We are anyways, me and you talk about that, but this puts in everybody's eyes, at least we're close to the same. We ran out of time. I'm bringing you back with updates.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Keep an eye out for Dome Audio. Reach out to me or Tim with any questions. If you want to be an investor, I don't always do this on a podcast, but this is an opportunity to invest in this company. And not only be a partner, but help in the growth and growing this unicornness of helping people. It's not Amazon, and you could do money in Amazon and stock market. That's great. And I trade myself, so it's not a bad thing, but this is putting your money and being able to do good with it. So reach out. We'll see you on the next show, the next episode. Thank you all for listening and watching.